Assalamu alaikum, as we say in Islam.
Firstly, let us start off by introducing ourselves. My name is Dr. Rashid, and I currently attend Dr. Phillips High School.
And my name is Bisma Siddiqui, and I currently attend Olympia High School.
We'd like to thank you for taking time away from your busy schedules to come out tonight. It means a lot.
On behalf of the Islamic Center of Orlando, I would like to welcome you to this Interfaith Ramadan, Iftar, and dinner. The Islamic Center of Orlando, or ICO as we say, was established in 1988, 30 years ago. It was created to serve and give back to its community and its needs at large. ICO is not only a place of worship, it is a place of unity, where love, compassion, and respect for everyone is practiced.
We strive to build bridges between people of all belief, ethnicities, and lifestyles. Ignorance creates barriers, so tonight is yet another example of the efforts that we at ICO are making to shed light on this holy month of Ramadan. In these efforts, we are hoping to create friendships that last a lifetime. Once again, we appreciate your presence here. So, in Islam, we begin our gatherings in the name of God. I would like to ask Muad Rahman to come up and recite a few verses from the Holy Quran. He is currently a student at the Islamic Center of Orlando and is memorizing the Quran. So without further ado, Muad Rahman.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا وجعلنا نومكم سباتا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا وجعلنا سراجا وهاجا وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا لنخرج به حبا ونباتا وجنات ألفافا إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إن جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا إن للمتقين مفازا حدائق وأعنابا وكواعب أترابا وكأسا دحاقا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا.
Thank you, Muad, for the beautiful recitation.
Now please welcome Imam Rashid.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you and welcome. This is the month of Ramadan, as you are all aware of, and it's our belief that Ramadan brings lots of blessings. But for me, this Interfaith Iftar or dinner, as we call, this is a big blessing for me, because I get to meet so many of you, and we spend hour, 2 hours here eating and talking and exchanging views. And I think this means a lot to me, because each year we make new friends. And each year I come to know of a new church, a pastor. And this way we are making new friends and we are making new bridges. And I think in this world which is full of hate, right? I think what is most needed is friendships, and love and understanding. So I'm Muslim, you are Christian, or whatever your religion is, right? That is secondary. But what's most important is that we are human beings. And as human beings, we should meet each other on one basis, that we are all creation of God and we are all created equal. And I think this is the reason why such gatherings are so important for us. And this is a time when we are going to reflect, we are going to listen from our respected pastors and leaders of the community. And I would like to welcome all of you here, but especially my one-year-old friend, Pastor Batten. I visited this church, Windermere Union, and I invited him. He was here a few months ago. We had a wonderful time. So thank you, Pastor, for coming and bringing your wife. Thank you. And then I have a new friend that I came to know, is right here, Pastor Ezra. And he went to India, actually my country. And when we met, first time I took him to a restaurant thinking that, he's American, he will like this kind of food, but then he said that, no, you should have taken me to an Indian restaurant. So he liked Indian food. So it was nice meeting him, and it's my promise that after Ramadan I'm going to take him to an Indian restaurant. But wonderful person, we met and we clicked first time we met. So Pastor, thank you for coming and bringing your friends. And then we have Pastor Gilroy from Mosaic Church. Again, we met and then, we became friends. And thank you, Pastor, for coming. I know he's very busy, but still he came. And with him, I'm going to take him to Indian restaurant as well. And our friend for many, many, many years, Mr. Jim Coffin, he is a pastor as well. And he is doing wonderful work in Central Florida for years. And he's very well known in everywhere. Any church I go, he is there. So he's not only just well known in the Christian community, Jewish community, or Muslim community, he's well known all over Central Florida for the wonderful work that he's doing. So I would like to welcome all of the leaders as well as all the guests. There are young people, there are grown-up people, people with experience, people, who are students, It's such a joy to see all of you here today. So with these words, I'd like the program to continue. So again, welcome to ICO.
So you all must be wondering, what is Ramadan? So me and my friends have put together a brief presentation on the basic tenets of Ramadan. Our holy month of Ramadan. What is Ramadan? Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. During this month, all Muslims around the world fast from sunrise to sunset.
So during fasting, you must refrain from eating, drinking, smoking, and etc. The history of Ramadan. Ramadan began as a holy month for Muslims after the holy book, the Quran, was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, on the event of Laylatul Qadr, which is also known as the Night of Power.
Why do Muslims fast? We fast because God has instructed us to do so. And in the Quran it says, O you who have believed, decreed upon you is fasting, as it was decreed upon those before you, that you may become righteous. During this month, fasting tests our patience and obedience to God. It also helps cleanse our mind and soul and experience the hunger of the less fortunate. Actions. During Ramadan, we must refrain from any wrong acts, increase the amount of good deeds, make up any past feuds, and so on. Overall, just be a better person.
Okay, Tarawih. Each night of Ramadan, after Isha, which is the night prayer, there is a voluntary prayer known as Tarawih. During Tarawih, there are no limited amount of prayers performed. You can pray up to 8, you can pray up to 20, 40, and so on. There is no limited amount. By the end of Ramadan, the entire Quran is recited.
Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr is an important religious holiday celebrated by Muslims worldwide that marks the end of Ramadan. This holiday is a joyous occasion with family and friends coming together to celebrate, and the most important thing, food. So I hope you guys enjoyed that brief presentation on Ramadan. And now, please welcome Pastor Barton, who has served the Windermere Union Church, United Church of Christ for 23 years. He has received his Master's in Divinity degree from Southeastern Theological Seminary in North Carolina in 1984. And please help me in giving a warm welcome to Pastor Barton.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you. Thank you once again for inviting me and my congregation to be guests in your house. One of the reasons why I follow the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth is because he says, when I was a stranger, you fed me. You welcomed me in. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And you've done this for me twice now, and I'm a stranger. So thank you. I feel at home here and very welcome. I want to share with you a story this evening from our tradition, and it's one in the Gospel of John. And it's a story of when Jesus is preaching on a hillside, and there are thousands of people listening to every word he said. But, as preachers will do, he spoke for a very, very, very long time. And it was getting late, and people were hungry. So he told his disciples, go and to the town and buy some bread, and so we can feed everyone. And his disciples said, Jesus, with all the money that we have, we could not buy enough bread to give everybody just one tiny little piece. Then one of his disciples said, hey, there's a little boy here who wants to share what he has. And so the little boy came up to Jesus, and he had 5 barley loaves and 2 fishes. Then we're not talking about halibut and grouper, all right? We're talking about tiny little fishes. And barley loaves with the bread of the poor. And so with this little boy offered to feed 5,000 plus people with this humble lunch that he had. And the story says that Jesus took the bread and he blessed it, and then he took the fish and he blessed it, and they fed a multitude. Now, there are many different interpretations of this story. One of the most common ones is the fact that somehow Jesus used miraculous powers to overcome the physics and the reality of 5 little barley cakes and 2 fish and fed a multitude. And that indeed is a wonderful story. But there's another one, and this is the one that seems to appeal to me. The other story is that everybody who came to listen to him speak all had their lunch with him. But they dare not bring out their lunch, lest they not have enough food to feed everyone else. Right? And when they saw this young boy offer everything that he had to feed a multitude, their hearts were transformed. And then there was so much food left over, they collected it in baskets for leftovers. Now, the first miracle, the first interpretation of the miracle, that somehow physically, somehow Jesus denied all laws of physics and multitudinous food and everybody's fed, is indeed a spectacular story. But for me, the second interpretation is more powerful, because the second one involves transforming someone's heart. And that, my friends, as you know, is a difficult thing to do, right? It's easy to give stuff away, but it's a greater challenge to train someone's heart to be generous and kind and loving. And so that's what I see that happened with this story, is that Jesus was able to take this humble boy's lunch and inspire a multitude to feed one another. You all have been in an incredible time of fasting, and I admire you so much for being able to be that disciplined, to be able to do this for your holiday. And tonight we celebrate the fact that we're breaking the fast. So I'm most grateful that you invited me to this part of the celebration. As I think about you, my friends, I think about the world in which we live in and the country we live in. And it seems the country we live in is in a great big fast that's been going on for so long. It seems our country is fasting the desire to be curious. Our country is fasting the desire to seek what is different about us as something to explore and to celebrate. It seems that our country is in a fast of compassion. There doesn't seem to be enough. It seems the country we live in is in a great fast of what it means to be informed, what it means to be educated, what it means to be enlightened. And this lack of compassion, and this lack of curiosity, and this lack of kindness and love has devastating effects upon humanity. Now, I will admit to you, I am a white American. Probably didn't know that until just now. I have never had the police stop me for any reason other than the fact that I was speeding. Never got out a speeding ticket though. I always got the tickets. I have no idea what it is like to be violated, to be pulled over, to have someone in my face wagging a finger because I speak differently and I look differently. And my heart breaks when every time that it happens. So tonight we gather together to break the fast. And this fast breaking is one that has a spiritual significance, right? It's a part of a spiritual discipline. And through the fast we discover who we are. And through the fast we do greater deeds. And through the fast we're reminded of our scripture and our culture and all the things that define who we are. And what I declare to you this evening is you're doing more this evening than breaking a fast that is an Islamic tradition. For our gathering together is breaking the fast of ignorance. And our gathering together is breaking the fast of prejudice. And our gathering together is breaking the fast of a lack of compassion and love. Now, I look here among you, and I don't see 5,000 people. I don't see 1 million people. We might think to ourselves, really, what benefit and what great power can this gathering do to change all the things that I mentioned in our nation? Well, you are like me. You believe in a power greater than ourselves. And I believe that that young boy could take his humble little lunch to Jesus, and Jesus could take it and bless it and break it and feed a multitude with it. That our gathering together this evening, as Muslims and as Christians, and as people of other faiths, and people maybe no faith at all, that we come here together to serve a greater purpose than our own agendas and our own traditions and our own cultures. You see. We're breaking the fast. We're choosing love over ignorance. We're breaking the fast. We're choosing curiosity and learning about one another over being afraid of one another. You see, we're breaking the fast. We're choosing not only to feed our bodies with delicious food and hospitality, but we're choosing also to feed our spirits. Our gathering together transforms hearts and lives. And we choose this evening to love each other regardless of our religion and of our culture, and that transforms souls. So may this fast this evening not only fill our bodies with delicious food, but more importantly, may our coming together to break the fast of ignorance, spiritual blindness, and unconsciousness of the masses say, here we are. We are different in many ways. Here we are. We celebrate our differences and choose to respect and honor and love one another. Here we are. We break this fast and this feast with love. Assalam.
Now please welcome Ezra Griffiths and Imam Tariq, who will have a discussion on Prophet Joseph. Here's a little bit of information on Ezra Griffiths. He works with youth with a mission, and travels and teaches extensively from the Bible. He has been to 35 nations and is a sought-after youth lecturer. He, his wife, and 5 children live in the western greater Orlando area. Please welcome them.
You want to go first? I go first. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. Good to see you all, your pretty faces. It's great coming out on this night to celebrate this with you guys. Thank you, Pastor, or Imam Tariq. But I wanted to, he and I spoke about, I like to get together with Muslims and specifically Muslims to talk about characters in our books that are similar. And, Pastor Gabe asked the Imam here, what's your favorite prophet? And he immediately said Joseph. And I said, okay, let's talk about Joseph. So just from a biblical standpoint, from a Christian viewpoint, a lot of us would know the story. There's a lot of similarities. I've read the Quranic one. But something I want to highlight is the dream interpretation of Joseph. He got in trouble, long story, he got in trouble. Actually, he didn't get in trouble. He was rejected by his brothers and sold as a slave, and falsely accused and thrown into prison. While he was in prison, he was able to interpret dreams. And he spent several years in prison. Eventually he gets out of prison because Pharaoh had a couple dreams that he couldn't interpret. None of the magicians, none of the wise men that surrounding him could interpret it. And Joseph was able to interpret it. And the story is that he, was second in command in all of Egypt. Brought reconciliation between his family and himself towards the end. And that whole dream sequence is so interesting to me because God often reveals himself in dreams. To myself, to many people. It's just part of what he does. And I love during Ramadan, towards the end, the night of power, the last 10 days, there's a lot of hope of the supernatural power of God being revealed in our Muslim friends' lives, right? Yeah. And that's what it is. I know this, and it's a great thing that I believe God does. Even in my own life, this happened to me when I was a much younger, not as good-looking young man, at 21, and my life was a wreck. Like Pastor Bart and I was, the police were after me a lot up until about 21. And I was sleeping one night. I was actually doing community service because I got in trouble with the police and I was in and out of jail. And I was home in my bed, and that how you're kind of half asleep, half awake type thing, that was going on. And at the foot of my bed during this evening, I saw Isa al-Messiah, Jesus the Messiah. Excuse me. And it was kind of your half in, half out. And I didn't know who he was, but he spoke to me and he said, "It's time." And I didn't know him, but I knew enough to throw my covers off and start walking towards this vision or this dream that God had granted me. And like that, it was gone. And I was like, wow, that was awesome. Like, I fell back asleep. Then I went back and I spoke to some ladies that were followers of Isa and the Injil. And I said, hey, this is what happened. And they looked at me and they're like, I remember one leaned back in her chair. She goes, woo! She goes, boy, you better straighten your life. That's what she told me. And I just thought she was crazy until about 5 months later, I was at a church, and I'd probably stepped foot in a church maybe 3 times, and this dream had come back to me. And in that church that night, all this guilt and this shame I was feeling a lot of. I went forward and spoke with the pastor of that church, and he prayed with me, and I physically felt a weight lift off of me of shame and harassment and condemnation and rebellion. In an instant, I felt that vision come back to me, and it was Isa saying, "I've taken this from you." And in an instant, I was done with drugs and alcohol and the horrid lifestyle I was living. And I think of that when I think of Joseph and the dream he had and the power that God used through those dreams, he wants to use in us. In our dreams and our visions that we're going to have, I believe specifically during this month. Don't you believe that? Is he wants to reveal himself to you. And I personally hope it's Isa giving you revelation, but it can be in a multitude of other ways. We know that. We've seen this before. So I wanted to just say that tonight, and I know Imam's got some great stuff.
So, both pastors talk about cops. Let me tell you what happened with me. The other day I was stopped by a cop, and I believe I was not speeding, but he said, no, you were. But then he said, what do you do? I said, well, I'm an imam, a pastor. He looked at me and said, you know what, I'll let you go this time. So sometimes he pastor happened. Okay, so regarding Joseph, actually, we were talking about, me and Pastor Ezra were talking about Joseph because the reason why Joseph is my favorite prophet in Quran is that I learned from him the art of forgiving. You know, we all know the story, so we are not going to go into the details, but what needs to be reflected upon is that after all the hardship that he had went through, right? Now, when his brothers came to him, and he had the power to inflict some punishment on his brothers, right? And he was a man of power right now. Joseph was the ruler of Egypt. But Quran says that he said, "La tasriba alaykum al-yawm," which means that, you know what, I'm not going to take revenge. I'm forgiving all of you, right? And the Quran said that he said, "Yaghfirullahu lakum," make God forgive you as well. You see? And he's the most forgiving and he's the most merciful. So I think, you know, this is a trait that is lacking, you know, in the world right now, where everybody is, you know, eager to take revenge, right, and punish others. But what we can learn from Joseph is that, you know, he forgave and then he expected God to forgive them as well. So, in Islamic tradition, it says that if you want God to forgive you, you should forgive people first. So this is something that really is needed in the world, and this is why, you know, if we really read and study the life of Joseph, you know, we can make this world a much better place than what we find the world to be right now.
No,
Okay.
amen.
Amen. You know, it's so important. I think most of you must be realizing what we are doing right now. You have pastors here, you have an imam here, you have Christian, you have Muslims together. We are sharing our views, trying to make this world a better place, right? And I think if the clergy can be people of commitment, right? Of making this world a better place, I think the world will follow the leaders, the religious leaders. I hope that, like Pastor Barton was saying, that it's only 100 people here. What 100 people can do, but he rightly said that, we should start. We should start, and we should do whatever we can. Let's make bridges between communities, right? Let's not burn bridges, One person is good to spread non-violence. Look in India, I'm from India, right? Gandhi, one person, right? He spread. Here, Martin Luther King, one person. Then the rest of the world followed. So that could be a Gandhi here, that could be Martin Luther King here, you never know, right? We have these youngsters here, they don't want to see this world of hate. Just yesterday or today in the morning, when my daughter was preparing, by the way, she's one of the MC, right? So when she was preparing, right, so she was trying to get some help from some website, and she was saying that why 10 children were killed in Texas. Why? And she goes to Dr. Phillips High School, right? And to be honest, just like any parent, I'm concerned, because it could be Dr. Phillips next time, may God forbid, right? So there is something wrong out there, and the world is kind of, sorry to say, it's stinking. You see this hatred, you see this killing, so it's a responsibility on the religious communities, the pastors, the leaders, to lead by example. And I cannot hate Pastor Barton, I cannot hate other pastors because they belong to other religion. No, they are people of God, right? I'm a Muslim, I'm an Imam, I'm trying to spread love from my church, from my mosque. They are trying to spread love from their church. If we continue to do this, with mutual love and respect, I can guarantee that sometime down the road, this world would be a better place. And that's what we are hoping for. Thank you. By the way, she's my daughter. She's my friend's daughter. Okay. She's a little bit nervous. So we have Pastor Gabriel. I'd like to invite him to please come, and for 5 minutes, if he can give his message, that would be nice.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us here, and we are just really excited to be able to build this friendship. That's the things that the Imam was saying just about the world we live in. We as Christians, we definitely, we believe that the world is not as it should be, but we believe that God has given us hope and given us a plan to rescue and restore the world to the way that it should be. And so, it's opportunities like this where we get to know one another, where we get to build relationships and friendships with one another, where we can practically live out those things that the Imam was talking about, that we can actually pursue and put into practice forgiveness, that we can pursue what it looks like to build those bridges and to understand and to step by step make the world into a better place. And so we're excited that we had this opportunity to start to get to know the Imam and to start to get to know you guys in your community, and that we can hopefully in the coming weeks and months and years build those bridges that will make an impact in our city. So thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you, Pastor Gabriel. And now I'd like to invite my friend Pastor Jim Coffin to come and say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. I first came to this masjid in August of 2012. There had been a murder that had taken place, multiple murders that had taken place up in Wisconsin at a Sikh Gurdwara. And we were holding an interfaith service over at the Sikh Gurdwara in Oviedo in support and solidarity. And there were representatives of this mosque who were there, and they said, oh, by the way, we're having a community iftar, would you like to come along? And so I came. And I would just like to make a couple of comments as a kind of an observer who has been observing, but also a little bit on the inside. And that was the first time I came, and at that time, they had for 2 or 3 years had a community iftar, and they had one per year. And it was well received, but there wasn't a crowd like we have tonight. You know, it wasn't quite that many people who were here. And so what has happened is they've continued to reach out to the community. More people have said, yes, that sounds like a good idea. Let's learn a little bit about what our neighbors think and find out a bit more about them. And so this year you're having five community iftars. That's the way it has grown. And it hasn't just grown here, but what they have done is actually create a model that other mosques have followed. Now they may not say they're following it, but the word kind of spreads, and it gets out. And so my grocery bill goes down substantially during Ramadan. Because I think I'll be going to nine different mosques this year, all of whom are doing what in 2012 I think only 2 were doing. And so I think that's tremendous. And then I'd just like to say one other thing as a compliment to this masjid, and that is that at the time that they were making application for an expansion of the facility here, there were those in the community who had reservations about it. And they might have had reservations had it been any group that was wanting to make an expansion that would bring in more people and so on. But particularly, the fact that there's a certain amount of Islamophobia out there and so on, that was probably a factor. And so the mosque here began to have community interaction, and they said, here's what we're thinking of doing. They invite the community in, they talk it over, the community says, well, this would be problematic for us, that wouldn't be. And so they negotiated. And so when it finally came to the vote before Orange County Council, there was not a single person from the community who spoke against it, where there had been considerable concern about it that had been expressed earlier. But one of the commissioners, the one who was from this area, gave a little speech, and he kind of talked about the way that this had been handled. And he said, really this is a model for how houses of worship should relate to the community around them. And he said, I just want to give this little testimony, as it were, I'm not sure he used that word, and of how it is possible for people to build those bridges and to make sure that they're actually reaching out to the community in a way that's really effective. Now there's just one more thing I want to say, and then I'll shut up. And that is that not only does this masjid invite people to come here to learn about them, and that's all very good, but they reach out into the community with practical deeds of kindness, doing good things, and also, they are a tremendous resource, for example, for the Interfaith Council, because if we are setting up a series of presentations about world religions and so on, we can always depend that somebody will be willing to come and speak on Islam, or we'll serve on panels where we have discussions about various social, moral, ethical issues. And so it's not just a matter of inviting people in, but it's reaching out into the community, actually going out into the community to, as several people have said, try to make the world a better place. So thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to be here. Bless all of you.
So let me go over the way we break our fast, the traditional way. And that is that around 8:15 is the sunset time. So we break our fast by eating a date first and then water. And after that, we have dinner. So what we do is that we hear the call for prayers, which is a tradition before breaking fast. And after that we have our dear friend Pastor Gabriel, who is going to do the prayers. So for the call of prayer, I'd like to ask one of my students to come and do the call of prayer. So we'll break the fast after he's done, and then the pastor.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
Pastor, can you please?
God, you are good, you are gracious, and you are loving. And it's from you that we learn forgiveness. It's from you that we learn to see one another with the right view. God, we thank you that each one of us in here is human beings, that we were created in your image, created to know you and to make you known. God, we thank you that it's only in pursuing you that we can find that forgiveness and extend it to one another, that we can walk in right relationship with one another and build those bridges. So God, we thank you for tonight, for the opportunity that we have to build friendships. We thank you for this community here. We pray that you bless this community here at the Islamic Center of Orlando. God, that you would God, just bless them during this month of Ramadan. God, that as they are seeking you and observing this fast, God, that they would know you in deeper and more real ways, God, that they would experience your power. We thank you for this food that we're about to enjoy. We thank you for this time together. It's in your name, Jesus, that we pray. Amen.
So we should break the fast now with this date. I think everybody has a date. So we'll eat the date and drink water and then we'll have dinner.
This here, so I was kind of bummed, but then, she wrote, this is a really good guy. I saw these from, as I walked up.
Yeah. Did you like that? Did you like studying that?
So I hope you all enjoyed this food. So let's get back to the program. If anybody has any views, comments, questions they have about tonight, please raise your hand and I'll bring the mic to you.
I just have a comment. Happens to be that my name is Dania as well, and I always wondered what it means. And your daughter just explained me that it means closer to God.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you.
I was just talking to my new friend and mom. What was her name again? Ramana? Ragda. We were talking about pilgrimaging to Mecca. I was wondering if anyone had done that and could share briefly about one of the most amazing experiences they had there. Maybe the most amazing experience they had if they pilgrimaged to Mecca.
I think many people have been there. I mean, that includes me as well. But would somebody like to share that? Okay, so I can tell you what is the most amazing thing in Mecca. Since this is the first mosque we believe that was built in the world, so we believe that when Adam came on this earth, he built the place of worship for God, which is Mecca. And then later on, when Abraham came, Prophet Abraham, he rebuilt it. So then we believe that all the prophets went there to pay their respect to God. Jesus went there according to our belief. Moses went and Muhammad was there. So when we go there, it's a completely different feeling, to be honest. It's hard to put that in words. You just feel very close to God, and you have, like, Hajj is the holy pilgrimage. This year I'm taking a group from Orlando, nearly 45 people are in the group. So when you go there, so you have people from nearly every country of the world. We circle the house of God 7 times, right? And so you see people from all parts of the world there, doing the same act. Everybody has different language, different culture, but we are all clad in 2 white, piece of cloths. One down there and then the other one on top. So everybody is wearing the same kind of dress that signifies unity and equality. And we circle the house of God 7 times. Why 7? Because Prophet Abraham did 7 times. And then Prophet Muhammad taught us to do the same as Prophet Abraham did. So we circle it 7 times. And then there is a stone actually, which we believe is the stone on which Prophet Abraham was standing when he was building the house of God. So each time he has to go up as the wall was getting taller and taller. So this stone will go up like an elevator. So it has the footprint of Prophet Abraham. So we go there and we pay our respect to Prophet Abraham standing next to that stone. And then, we spend as much time in that house of God as possible. But, it's just a completely different feeling. I was there last January, that's like 4-5 months ago. And I'm eager to go again. So the more you go there, the more your hunger and thirst increases. So I would say that you have to go there to taste it. Yeah. Yes. Comments from tonight's gathering. We heard some wonderful words from our distinguished pastors. So, yes.
I'm sure that there's a lot of misinformation that you hear that people have about Islam. So what are a couple of the things that are sort of the most common and maybe the most frustrating that come to you where it's misinformation, where they go, oh, Muslims believe this or do this or whatever? So here's the opportunity to set it straight for a lot of people.
Thank you. One of the most main misconception about Islam, I would say misinformation about Islam, is that it is a religion of hate or violence. So this is something very frustrating for us because we as Muslims have been taught to love everyone. So I don't see any teaching of hate in our religion, in Quran or in the life of Prophet Muhammad. We are taught to love everyone, but media teaches the world that no, we are there to hate everyone. So, it's very frustrating because it's just like you as Christian, if you are told that Bible is a book of hate, or Jesus taught you to hate, how frustrated will you be, right? When we read Bible or when we listen to the stories of Jesus, right? All we see is love. We don't see any hate out there. Same thing with Prophet Muhammad and his teaching, all we see is love. That's why Muslim, Christian, Jews, people of other faiths have been living together for centuries as neighbors, and we had no problem whatsoever. It's only recently, I would say, since 40, 50, 60 years, that this violence and hate and killing are spreading. And what we see is that, the main issue is the biased media. I give you an example, right? This shooter in Texas, right? Who 17-year-old, he was 17, right? Yeah. So he killed 10 people, some students, some teachers, right? Now, the media did not bring his religion or his faith in question, right? You would never, you have not heard media saying that, oh, he was a Christian fanatic or a Christian terrorist, right? For some reason, this terrorism, right, goes hand in hand with Muslims only. Imagine if the shooter was a guy who belonged to a Muslim family and for some whatever reason he had done this, then the whole world would have been bashing Muslims. And we as Imams have to defend our religion and faith and the community. All the channels would be at the mosque asking us to explain why this young 17-year-old Muslim guy had done this. What you as Imam was preaching him, why were you preaching? All kind of questions come up, right? So you see that the media is biased against Muslims, right? So, and that is very frustrating for us, right? So that's why, as I said to you earlier, that our job at ICO, Islamic Center of Orlando, and all the rest of the mosques in Southern Florida, is that we are trying to make bridges so that we can educate people who Muslims really are, right? So that, to the best of our abilities, right, we can shed hatred and bring peace and love. Yeah. Yes.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I want to really express my gratitude to you, Imam, and to the pastors in the room and the community. I am part of the Muslim community. I am so proud of what you're doing because, let me tell you, not do I belong to the Muslim community, I belong also to the Orlando community, to the Florida community, to the world community. And unless we break the walls and we get to know each other, we will not reach our potential as people. One people, hopefully we will always see you doing this, Imam. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We would not have been able to do this tonight without the help and support from the pastors. They really said yes, they believed in peace, they believe in making bridges. So with their help, we were able to accomplish this. So may God bless all of us. And one more thing before I forget, sometimes I forget this and then I feel bad. I made a point not to forget it. And that is that we were able to organize this nice, beautiful event with the help from lots of volunteers. They are fasting, right? And some of them are young girls, boys, right? And then some of these mothers, they have their own home to run because Iftar, we have a special meal to make at home. But they made that sacrifice, and they have been here with me since like 2 o'clock in the afternoon to organize everything. So thank you.
You've discussed a number of times, and it's sunk in with me, that much of the misconception among the Western world has to do with trying to interpret the Quran in English language or other languages. And unless you actually read it in Arabic, there's so many misinterpretations of the word. Could you touch on that as a help? When you talk about it being a religion of peace, people will say, read the Quran, this is what it says, and it's not peaceful.
Exactly. Okay. So like any book, right? For example, if I take any book, Bible or Torah or Quran, right? And pick a verse from the Holy Book, right? And give you the meaning of it. So chances are that without any background, the meaning will come out completely opposite of what it was intended. And I was reading an article written by a Muslim scholar from Harvard University, and he gave few verses from Bible. And he said that, look, if the background of these verses from Bible are not known, then the message that the reader will get will be completely different. Although those verses are talking about peace, right? But the way it was translated, or if the background is not known, then the message will be messed up. Same thing with Quran. There are some, one time I was on, I don't like that person anymore, but let me tell you. I used to like him a lot, but not anymore. Sean Hannity. Right? So one time when I was at UCF, I was driving to UCF for my class, I was getting late. I was used to listen to him at 5:80 and AM, right? So it was around 4 o'clock, and he was bashing Muslim Islam, full. So I got so disturbed at the bashing that I called him. And I was told that there's a long list of calls. And then the lady asked me that, by the way, who are you? I said, I'm an Imam from Islam. And said, oh, you're an Imam? I said, yeah. Positive? I said, what do you mean positive? I said, I'm an Imam. No, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm going to put you as ahead of the rest of them. I said, okay, that's fine. So then Sean Hannity came in and said, after the break, I'm going to take you in. So he took me. And then what happened was that he started bashing, and he started, I think he had Quran in front of him, right? And he just said that, Imam, you know what? The Quran is right in front of me, and it's an English translation, and there's this verse on this chapter, and it says that, kill the non-believers and this and that. So how can you deny that it is not them? Then he went off and off and off. So then I said, if you give me a promise not to interrupt me for 2-3 minutes, I can give you the background of this verse. But his weakness is that he would still interrupt, right? So I got paranoid. I said, you know what? I have been listening to you, right, for so many years now. And that is your weakness. You never let your guest or the caller make his point.
Yeah.
So he said, let me make my point. So he said, okay, I promise for 2 minutes I'll let you speak. So what happened was that I made my point, or tried to make my point, that verse, right, was a verse that he had taken out of context, because that verse was talking about a certain war, right? And in war, the language is different, right? I'll give an example. Remember in 2003 when George Bush was the president, right? And when he attacked or invaded, whatever you like to call, Iraq, right? Look at his language. Language is completely different. Stern, warning to the enemies, to Saddam Hussein and others, right? That we are going to do this, we are going to do that. Why? Because it was time of war. Now if you take George Bush's statement, right? And then say that no, he was an evil person because that's what he preached all his life. So you're wrong. You're wrong. He was at war, so the language was of war. Same way when you talk about one few verses of Quran, right, which were revealed at the time of war, so that was for a specific time, for specific circumstances, right? But for everyday life, right, everyday occurrences, you read Quran, Quran teaches us that, you know, it's all about love. It's all about love. And, you know, Muslims believe that there are 99 names of God, right? And, but when Quran was revealed, God started Quran by saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which means in the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. So two names, the most merciful and the most compassionate, right? Now God says that if you want to love me, inculcate love and compassion in you, mercy and compassion in you. Because these are two of my most beautiful traits and qualities. So as Muslims, we are told by God to have mercy and love and compassion, right? So this is why the real teaching of Islam is all about the love and compassion. And last thing that I would like to say under this context is, you know, if you want to learn, like if I want to learn Bible, right, I will go to a person who is an expert on Bible or who is a pastor. I'll sit with him. I'll say, Pastor Barton, you know, I want to learn Bible. He'll say, yes, I'll teach you. Now, he is qualified to do that, right? In the same way, if you want to learn Quran, don't go to Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh. You know, go to an Imam, go to an Imam to learn it, right? So the thing is that when people get their information from the wrong sources, then they get half the truth or distorted truth, right? So that is the thing. So let me tell you about one statistic that I read, I think 6 months ago, 6 or 7 months ago. It's a Pew Research. You can do a Google on that when you go home, and say that nearly 68 or 78 % of the Americans have little or no knowledge about Muslim and Islam. It's a big figure that they have. And if you do not know anyone, you will fear that person, because ignorance, you know, is just fear. Right? But when you know someone, then you will not hate that person, right? For example, after this meeting, after this dinner, you will not hate me, and I hope so. Why? Because we ate together and we spent some time together, right? But if I will not know you, then possibility is that I might hate you. So one of the problems is this. There is no interaction between Muslim community and other communities. So this is why what we are doing here is building bridges, or trying to build bridges. And we'll continue to do that as long as God wants us to do. And I think this is the most, I would say, pressing need right now. Yes.
I just wanted to take a second to say thank you, extend my personal thanks for what you all did for the victims of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. I don't know if the rest of you are aware of it, but this particular mosque was well over $100,000. I think that you raised in a matter of 2 weeks for people on a very small island that you probably never visited. But you felt their pain and you chose to be human and humane enough to help us. And for that I thank you.
Just to recap on that, so we raised this money, I think, within 2 days, I believe, right, from the Muslim community, and it all came from the members of the mosque. And remember, this money was going to victims, irrespective of their religion or ethnicity. It was just victims, period. So, yes. Young men are not asking questions. Yes.
I've got at least 1,000 questions, so we can be all right. So. If we were to host something like this, or if a church was to host something like this, would the Muslim community respond and want to participate in co-learn like we are doing together tonight?
Yes, 100%. Oh, we go to churches whenever sometimes when we are invited, definitely we go, but sometimes we are not invited, but we come to know that this event is for public, right? It's not just by invitation, it's for public. So you'll see my secretary, Sister Fatima there, my youth Imam, I think he just left. He's outside? Okay. Oh, yeah, he has to lead the press. So he's there or I'm there. Either of, or all three of us are there. And we take some members, some volunteers from us. So yes, I mean, whenever there is a good event that is good, we go there.
That's awesome. One more thing real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
In your neighborhood, what's the best way to build bridges in your neighborhood? Does that make sense? So like, we come to dinner tonight, it's amazing, but like, my neighbor next door, what do you suggest?
Just talking to each other, right? And especially at the time of festivals and holidays, right? To sending a gift, that does wonders. Yes, that does wonders. And if you excuse me, let me tell you something which is kind of kosher, but so we had a neighbor close to a mosque, right? For some reason, he was always paranoid with us. Like when it comes to Friday parking, Friday is our weekly day, he will have an issue with that. We'll try our best not to irritate him in any way, but he would always find a way to criticize us or to complain about us. So we were thinking, and we'll try to be as good with him as possible. But my friend Ijal is sitting here. He said, you know what, Imam? Let me do something. I said, what? He said, I'm going to take some few expensive gifts to his home, right? I'm going to knock the door and I'm going to give him some gifts. Maybe that will change his heart and we can be good friends. So he went there, and we knew that the temper of that guy, he gets mad very easily, very easily. So Mr. Ijaz, he took few gifts. Now look at the power of human touch. He went there, he knocked the door, he gave him those gifts, and that person was taken back. He could not believe that, the same people are giving me gifts that, I have been yelling and screaming at. So, since then till now, we don't have any major issue with him. He still sometimes gets mad, but nothing like before. Nothing like before. But I would consider him to be a friend now. So, yes. By the way, giving gifts, I do the same to my wife when she's mad. But it was only when the gift is expensive. Well, nice to have you. I hope everybody enjoyed. Thank you again for coming. Okay, so, okay. Dr. Afzal is saying that when you leave, please use this door. There's a big gate out there. This one to exit. Okay.
Just before everyone leaves, I would like to thank you again for coming, and thank you all for the beautiful, delicious desserts. I have your plates here. If you have a plate, if you can take it home with you. And thank you again for the flowers and for the beautiful evening.